Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Good. So just before we get started, I want you to know that we do record our consultations, sign the form and everything, but like to just give you another heads up about that, okay?
Appreciate that. Yep.
And you're a Ross, correct?
Yep.
Cool. Cool. And then go ahead, and I read a little bit of your consultation form. I saw you have a Sheepadoodle and everything. Saw a lot of information there. But go ahead and just fill me in with any important information you think I should know about, such as, also with the goals and everything like that. I'll be taking notes as you go along, and then from
Yep.
there, we'll go from there. Okay.
Great. What was your name?
Enrique.
Enrique. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So I've got Burt. He's two. He's just over 2 years old. He turned two in March. Had him since he was 10 weeks old. Great dog all around. When he was a puppy, though, he had some issues with his other dogs at times. And it was mostly on leash. And it would be if there was a dog that he didn't know, he would first go into defensive mode, and then it might be a couple times that you have to meet that dog on a leash, and then usually the third time he'd be like, "Oh, this dog's my friend," and want to play with it. And I worked with another behaviorist that I've seen a few times, and she's based out of Northwest Indiana in Valparaiso. And between the time Burt was 6 months old and about a year and a half, he probably spent collectively a month with her doing board and train just because of my travels for work. And it was like, all right, I trust you. You do board and train, and you're affordable, and you're out of your own home. Great. And she worked with him to get rid of a lot, to help correct some of those issues when it came to other dogs. And it was just like, she was like, hey, he's a puppy. And then it was like, he's in that teenager phase, and it just him and how he acts, and with the hormones and all that kind of stuff. And she had a really good bond with him, and still does, and like knows him really well. And talked to her about this and got her POV on it as well. But I want to get some other opinions too. And so the one thing that there's that happening when he was a puppy, and it's become less of an issue. But there still are times occasionally when we're out on a walk, or we're in my building waiting for the elevator, or get in the elevator, where if it's a dog he doesn't know, and he feels threatened by that dog, he will growl, show his teeth, and sometimes lunge at that dog. Uh, for me, I'm 6'2", 270. When he jumps at a dog, like I have the strength to pull him back. The dog walker that I used to use, he was fine with Burt on a leash, and then he moved to the West Coast, and we had a new dog walker, and she was like, "Hey, with how big I am compared to your dog, I wouldn't feel comfortable walking with his normal collar. I want to have him on a gentle lead or a prong collar." We tried gentle lead just in my apartment, and like going to the elevator, he just was freaking out. So we tried prong collar. He was good with that. But one thing with that is it definitely stopped him pulling. But one thing I started to notice with it was if he were to lunge another dog and you pull him back, he would turn his aggression on the person with the leash.
Mm.
And he got me once on my thumb. Nothing too bad. Bled really bad with my thumb, but like overall, when I cleaned it up, I'm like, oh, this is nothing. But then last week, and back even further. So one thing I always told my dog walker when I like, did the consult with her when she started, like back in the fall or late summer, was, hey, when you're in my building and you're out on the street, be wary of him around other dogs when he's on a leash. Like, and she's like, "Oh, I'll be sure. Like, don't worry about it." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like, "You've seen how, I did a walk with her once, and she saw like kind of what I was talking about with the lunging and growling and the aggression." And then I told her, like, because like when the one thing where I notice it really where it can be really bad is if we're in an enclosed space. Like if we're in the elevator lobby of my building, or we are in the elevator, he gets very, very defensive. And if it's someone he doesn't know, if there's a couple dogs in the building he knows and loves, and he's like, he sees them and just freaks out and wants to play. Uh, but if it's like there's this one dog in particular, he's like a pit mix, And the owner of that dog has said to me, like, hey, like, he doesn't do well around other dogs. I'm like, great, I appreciate you letting me know. And there are times where, let's say I'm on the 8th floor and I know they live on the higher floor and I'm waiting for the elevator on 8. There are times when the elevator might open and they're in there already, and Burt will see that dog will see Burt, and it's immediate, like, tempers up, like, just they start growling, barking, going nuts at each other, and I'll like pull Burt away from the elevator just to calm them down, and just tell them, like, hey, we'll wait for the next one. And I'll hear him and the guy in the elevator with his dog, and his dog just going nuts. And last week, what happened was the dog walker was coming down the elevator, and when she got to the lobby of the building, she walked out, and as she walked out of the elevator, that guy was coming back in the side door into the elevator lobby with his dog. The dog saw each other. Burt lashed out at that dog lashed out at Burt. She pulled Burt's collar. Burt turned on her, got her in the arm once, and then released. Didn't break the skin. If anything, it was a little scratch in the skin, but like I mean, he's an 80-pound dog. This woman's like 5'3", 5'4". It scared the hell out of her, and when she texted me about it, it scared the hell out of me. I don't want to have, like, it's one thing for a dog to be a dog, but for that kind of aggression to happen is not acceptable. And I just was like, hey, like, I'm like, she's like, she's, at first I was like, are you okay? Like, that was my first concern. Second concern was, is my dog okay? And he was fine. But then my third immediate concern is, I don't want this to ever happen again, because I don't want it to happen where, if this does happen and it's reported to the police and anything like that, where it could then be a pattern is then detected, and it's like, hey, your dog's a risk to those other around you, you need to put it down. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The one thing, when I talked to Lisa, the trainer I mentioned, the behaviorist I mentioned in Indiana, was, about what she thought with that, and told her that I was speaking to you guys, and how on your website it talks about prong collars and e-collars. And the one concern that she had was like, hey, I know Burt is a dog, I know him really well from like the time I spent with him. My concern is with an e-collar, with how sensitive a dog he is, it might just make it worse, or make him just shrivel up into a ball and like have no emotion. So I was wanting to kind of hear more about what your process is and how you guys work. And like, it could, like, sure, concerns like e-collar can make things worse or just heavily suppress him. And she's just worried about like how careful they're used, and like, she's all about like, there's tools out there, and all the she's like, I've used all the tools, whether it's e-collars, prong collars, you name it. And but like, just wanting to make sure that it's being used in the right way with the right dogs. And so that's where we're at right now. And yeah.
Cool. Lots of good information, and it sounds like, and this is the priority, and this is the only issue you're having with Bird. Nothing else. Anything else I should know about?
Separation anxiety. He he's a great dog. Like, when I got him, like, housebreaking was so fucking easy with him. It was like, I was spoiled. But when I got him 2 years ago, it was like still like COVID, and I was working from home, and so I would be home all day. And the trainer that I was first seeing at I think it's Anything Is Possible, that place in used to be over on like North Avenue, was like, hey, don't keep him by your side at all times during the day, because he lets it get attached to you, and when you start going back to work, you're fucked. And that was like when I had him for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, all right, cool. So what I would do was, when I'd be working from home, I'd put him in his crate from like 9 to 5, and I'd take him out at lunch to like go do his business and like hang out with me for a little bit and eat lunch. And then I put him back in his crate the rest of the day. But even with that, there are times where like, if I leave right now, like, I can get up and like walk out the door, like, and you'll see him come running in back. Where if I leave this, literally go out in the hallway, he freaks out. If I go to take the trash out, he freaks out. There's like, but when I put him in his crate, and leave with him in his crate. He's like, oh, okay, I get what this is. Like, he goes in there and like he knows like this is my home. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want me to leave, but he doesn't like freak out and cry. He goes in there and is like, okay, I'm good. But I'd like to get to the point where, if possible, where I can just leave him out and I don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Cool. Anything else?
Not really off the top of my head, no. There was a time in October of this past year where he can be toy protective at times, but never towards me.
Okay.
It's only towards other dogs, and it's only really happened at the dog park, where if there's a ball that he has, and he'll be sitting there playing with the ball, and like he'll just be like sitting there looking at me, like, look what I have, and then if another dog like kind of sneaks up on him, like from the side, like out of his periphery, and it's a dog he doesn't know, he'll just like kind of growl at them and turn him away. There was one another pit mix that's I'm just pissed at this woman for bringing him to the dog park, because she would always say, like, if their ball was by her dog and you go pick it up, she'd be like, oh, I wouldn't do that. He might bite you if you pick up the ball that's by him. And it's like, if you're saying that, why are you bringing him here?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
And that dog and Burt got into a fight once, and then when it happened, I immediately grabbed Burt and pulled him away, and she grabbed her dog, and then she accused Burt of biting her when I was there the whole time, didn't see it, and other people that were there didn't see it. I'm like, hey, I think it might have been your dog that bit you, but I then took Burt and just got out of there. So I'm like, you're not having control of your dog. I'm getting my dog out of here because it's not safe. The next day I go back, and because like it was something I would take him there every day, because it's literally across the street from my place, and I go back and like all Burt's friends are there playing, and then she comes in with her dog, and her dog runs right to Burt and goes after him, and Burt turns on him. I grab Burt and pull him away, and she's like, hey, your dog bit my dog and bit me yesterday. I need your information. And I'm like, cool, can you put your dog on a leash and get him under control? She's like, well, I need your information. I'm like, all right, I'll give you it, just let me get your dog under control. And gave her my phone number, and she then like texted me later that day being like, hey, so your dog bit my dog, and like sent me a photo, and there was like a little nick on the dog's nose, and your dog bit me. And I'm like, I don't think my dog bit you. Like I never saw that, and other people didn't see it. And she's like, well, he did. And I'm like, okay, whatever. What can I do? What would you like? And she's like, well, can you just pay my bill for my bite, and the bill for my dog? And I'm like, yes, like, let's talk about it, send me the bills, and we'll figure it out. Then the next day I get a call from Charlotte Police Department where she had called and filed a report. And that was a little unnerving, to say the least, but I mean, that's her right. Then I find out through other friends in the dog park that I would still see outside the dog park that she's crazy, where she had her ex-boyfriend got a restraining order against her, and she continues to bring her dog to the dog park after it has attacked multiple other dogs, and as always will say to the other people, like, oh, it's your dog's fault. And I heard that again from a friend of mine at the dog park, who's like kind of like the unofficial mayor of the dog park, as we would call him. And I'm like, hey, here's her number. If her dog is biting people, has bitten people and is biting other dogs, here's her number so that they can contact her to get her to pay. And also, they should be filing a report with CPD. Like I don't want to get the police involved by any means, but if she's going to play that card, is what it is.
Yes. Jeez.
So that's, yeah.
Got it.
Nothing drives me more crazy than irresponsible dog owners. And I'm sure you probably feel the same.
Yes.
And I don't want people to ever think I am an irresponsible dog owner, because I'm not. Like, I watch him like a hawk whenever we are. And that's why we're here today, because I want to make sure this stops happening, so that way it's not an issue.
Sure. Cool. Okay. Well, Is it like going to like, the redirection and everything with the prong collar?
Yeah.
Where did you like do the prong collar training on your own? Like you put it on yourself and everything. Okay. And then how
Yeah.
did you do it without how is he feeling, how does he act when feeling the pressure of the prong collar without being in the context of reactivity or dog?
He's fine. He
Okay.
like he when he sees the prong collar, he knows what it is, and he's like, I don't want like he's like, I don't want to have this put on me, but he's fine with it.
Yeah.
And if it's like more so just like walking and getting him to not pull, fine.
Fine.
But when it's like a reactivity to another dog and him turning and it's like not even reactivity, it's reactivity to another dog, but then him going, and when you pull on that real hard, he immediately turns.
Got it. Okay. And then the first time he ever has redirected on someone was with the prong collar, correct?
No, he has
Okay.
redirected before without the prong collar, but it
Okay.
was more of a case of from what I can tell, uh it was he didn't know where it was coming from. He was
Okay.
in an unfamiliar space and didn't know what was going on, and he was surrounded by other dogs, and I came in to grab his collar, and when I did grab his collar to pull him out as a regular collar, he turned and just like nipped me in the arm, or not in the arm, in the hand. And then when he saw it was me, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, so yeah.
Um, so when a dog is in that context, you probably already know this. That frustration, that energy needs to go somewhere. And we do train with prong collars, but it's not our primary tool, and we don't have programs with prong collar because prong collar is a very confrontational tool. Okay, dogs know where it's coming from. Dogs know it's you, just because they see the leash attached to you, right? So when it comes to addressing behaviors with prong collars, you can sometimes, it's very rare from what we've seen on our part, where the dog will actually redirect to you because either they don't like being corrected or confronted, or that frustration just needs to go somewhere, right? They
Mhm.
need to let it out somehow. That's why sometimes we'll hear like, my dog is friendly, my dog will pull to another dog and drag me, and then when they get to that dog, they'll do a quick bite, but then they'll play. Okay, because they
Yeah.
need to release that frustration somehow. As you already know and seen, dogs are very mouth-based animals, right? They communicate through their mouth, whether they're feeling anxious, whether they're trying to create a boundary with someone or a dog, right? It's always with the mouth, right? So um, with the redirection, I just wanted to give some more information about it. And it sounds like it's just something that he doesn't mean, right. Whenever a dog redirects, we're not we and we see it, we're telling the client like, hey, this is nothing personal, that's just what he's feeling and what he needs to let out, he can't help it, but we can definitely do things to help manage it, eliminate it, or just the safest route to address that stuff, right. So the first thing, even if you don't end up training with us, I will recommend you muzzle your dog in the building. Okay. um for one, the dogs, and then the redirection stuff. So that's going to give the owner or handler, whoever's handling Bird, confidence that when they do feel like Bird is going to redirect them, that they're not going to get bit and they're going to be fine, right? If we're just seeing it in the building, then once they go outside, for their walk and everything, and you're like, he doesn't really redirect and doesn't get that reactive outside walks, maybe, right? Then you can take it off. It doesn't matter, right? But in building, especially when we're close quarters, because I'm thinking handler has to have a short leash to beware of dogs, but then also since their hand is short on the leash, they can get bit pretty quickly.
Yep.
So the only thing I will definitely would like recommend is, again, even if you don't train with us, wherever you go, if you look for training elsewhere, is definitely purchase a muzzle and start muzzle conditioning like now, and get that condition to him well, and take your time with it and all that stuff, right? Any questions about that so far?
No, that makes total sense. And that was one thing I was considering, is like people just always see a muzzle and they think like, oh my God, this dog's ruthless. It's like, no, no, no. It's more just, and it's more for everyone's like his own production from himself, if you will. And that was one thing when I spoke to Lisa, that trainer I mentioned. she was like, hey, like he's very attached to you and he can pick up on your emotions. So when you're very nervous standing by the elevator, he's going to be very nervous and ready to do whatever. So
Right.
like you need to relax when you're by the elevator and just like condition him to when he's by the elevator. All right, we're good. Like just pay attention. Don't pay attention to the elevator. Pay attention to me. And so one thing I've been doing with that is like working on that connection with him, where it's getting him to be like connected with me and not paying attention to the surroundings and kind of desensitize him to what's going around. It's like, hey, just I'm right here. Keep reinforcing that connection with like every time he looks up at me, give him a treat, keep him engaged, and so on.
So yeah, definitely muzzle. The muzzles we use are called, we like to use Baskerville. We like to use Baskervilles. It's really easy because it allows Burr's mouth to like open and close, and he can accept treats through it. So maybe like, let's say, you know, in the future, a dog passes and he's got the muzzle on. Well, you're still able to feed him in a treat through the muzzle, right? He can still drink
Yep.
through water. He can breathe, open his mouth, pant. He can do these things. So we find that that's our the muzzle we recommend. There's also if you go on Leerburg, Leerburg, they have big muzzles too that they're plastic and they have holes through it, or like a cage type muzzle. But I like anything that's very open so they can open their mouth and breathe. Right, that's what I like. Baskerville is a plus because you can feed through it. The other ones at Leerburg, I believe you cannot feed through them because they don't have that much space to feed. That's why. But
Yeah, I'm looking at like as we're talking, I'm pulling up on Amazon Baskerville and found some yeah, see what you're talking about.
sometimes the sizing is off, just a heads up. So they sell them at PetSmart too. So if you wanted to see like a physical muzzle, PetSmart has a lot of them, or you can buy a size where you think it's going to fit, and then one maybe bigger just in case.
Yeah, you can always return it on Amazon. Gotta love Prime.
But that's the one thing I'm definitely seeing that's going to help you and your handler. Again, give you that confidence. Like if he reacts, he's not going to bite the dog. He's not going to bite me. We're good.
Yeah. And I think one other thing is I've got a new dog walker now, because I didn't the woman who I always was worried about her walking him because of how small she was, and also she's a little bit like just a little bit too nosy in my personal life, and just like, oh, so how's this and that, like, well, you really should do this, and like, you know, you really shouldn't do that in this building, like people know, and it's like I don't like I've got a Jewish mother at home. I don't need a second one walking my dog. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
And now the new dog walker is from Pause for Walk, Chicago. He was in the neighborhood, and I had a orientation with him where I'm like, hey, this is all things you need to know about. Like here's all the details.
Hey. Oh, sorry. We had two siblings playing. They something to get rough.
Oh, I didn't even hear it, so you're good.
Cool. So that's that. But yeah, I'm thinking that Ross, not Ross, you're Ross. Burt, right, is some nervousness, right? A lot of times when it comes to elevators, that is a really big trigger for nervous dogs, right? Because it's the surprise, I don't know what's going to come out, I don't know what's going to happen, and it's going to be that sudden change that's going to trigger them, right? So definitely some nervousness, and maybe just like, you know, territorial behavior maybe as well. And when it comes to all these like behavioral issues, you mentioned it before, defensiveness, right? It's all coming from some sort of insecurity or just some sort of like lack of communication that he doesn't know, right? What's going to happen at the elevator, right? He's not, you know, you don't know either, right? So it's more about teaching him that if he does escalate, we have to have some sort of tool that's going to calm him down in a healthy way, because the prong collar, again, can be very confrontational. Okay, e-collar, I'll dive into more about this and how the technology works and everything, is non-confrontational. Okay, because there's nothing connected to you and the physical feeling on his neck. Are you familiar with Cesar Millan?
Yep.
Did you see that episode, or did you hear about an episode where he got bit by his it was like Caesar's big bite or something like that?
Oh yeah, where one of his own dogs bit him.
I don't know if it was own dogs, but he was working. It was a resource guarding situation.
Yep.
Dog is guarding the food. Okay. Caesar's putting his hand in it, in and out, and then the dog is fine. But then the dog starts to show its teeth. And Caesar does what's called a physical correction, where he just does a poke on the side or something here, right? Because he's very like, think like a dog, whatever, right? But that is very confrontational. That is you're creating a fight. Okay. So I like to look at that same situation as prong collar, right? Where you're using physicality to communicate, right? And it might not be intentional. It might just happen where he lunges, he hits the prong, and you were just standing there, and he's gonna look immediately at you because that's where it's coming from. He can see that.
Yeah. He sees the physical connection of like this collar, leash to your arm.
Exactly. When it comes to e-collar, nothing's there, right? So a lot of times owners ask me, is my dog gonna hate me because I'm electrocuting them? Like, no, the dog doesn't know it's coming from you. It's only knowing it's the association where it's like to walk next to you or recall.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, speaking of, so one thing we didn't touch on, but should touch on, there were times where when I was crate training him, where if I'd be gone at work or like go out to dinner, he would bark a lot and was starting to get complaints from neighbors. And I got one of those, it's like an e-collar for barking, and that seemed to work really well. Now I can go grab it real quick, actually. It doesn't say the brand name on here, but I can actually pull it up on Amazon.
Okay.
I'll pull my old orders.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to the bark collars and e-collars, depending on the brand of bark collar, they do have similar like feelings and everything. The bark collar that we use and we recommend is called from e-collar Technologies. It's pretty nice because it's got a screen, it counts the barks for you, you can change the levels, you can also add a kind of like a warning thing where like the barks will happen, it'll beep, like at the noise, barks continue, then it'll send stim. So
so this one has it where it's some like brand I've never heard of. It's like called like NBJU.
Okay.
It's got good rating. It's like 32,000 ratings on Amazon, and it's a 4-star 4.2 rating. But it's the same kind of idea where first bark, it beeps. Second bark, beep and vibrate. Third bark, beep, vibrate, stim, and with adjustable levels for the vibration and the stim.
Because yeah, you're all we need to do in that situation is just snap Bird out of that moment and get him out of the separation and stuck where we're trying to get the brain out of the where's that.
Yeah.
So that's all we're trying to do. And if you're having successes, great.
Here, I'll drop the link to the one I have in the chat.
Cool. But yeah, I think this is nothing we've seen dogs and worked with dogs who have redirection. E-collar, when we're using these tools of prong collar, e-collar, I always like to think and to remind clients that these tools did not make the redirection just come out of nowhere. It was always in the dog, right? It was just at what point are we going to start to see it, and then how we're going to address that to let them know that, hey, it's also unacceptable to bite me, right? Don't bark at the dog, don't bite me. Simply pass the dog. You don't like the dog, we're not going to play with the dog. That's not the goal here,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. It's like, oh, you don't like the dog? Fucking ignore it. Yes, I don't like people. I don't go and punch them in the face.
Exactly. Perfect. And you mentioned earlier where you spoke about handler focus and focus on you, right?
Yep.
That is one of our goals, right? So a lot of times people think e-collar training is you slap the collar on the dog, you put the dog in a situation where they're going to react, and then you blast them on maximum whatever level that is, right? That is unfortunately commonly practiced, but it doesn't fix the situation because you're thinking, okay, well, let's just punish the behavior, then we're good, right? It doesn't, because now the dog is wondering, what was that feeling? Where did it come from? And when is it going to come back? There's just so many questions about this feeling and you're going to get a really messy dog, and it's going to be very anxious, frustrated, and just always assuming when's the correction going to come, when's it going to come, when's it going to go, right?
Yeah, good predicting it and being like something happened, like wait for it. Okay.
You know, we've had clients come to us who did their own e-collar training, and you know, they're trying to help their dog. So I don't blame them, right? But unfortunately, sometimes you can just tell the dog is always assuming it's going to feel the e-collar, or they're just like, I had one dog who you simply would just, they would just turn and they would just yelp, but then the e-collar did not go off, right? Because they're just assuming they're going to get slammed, right? So it's
There's
a,
that, yeah, Pavlovian response.
so then that's when we're trying to, that's for then, so you know, it takes time to fix those dogs, but we have seen those dogs, and we've seen better results in them start to de-escalate when it comes to like being outside in an environment with the e-collar, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing that we need to do is teach Bird when the e-collar is going to come, when it goes away, and how to turn it off. Okay. So the first exercise we like to teach when it comes to the e-collar is called heel. Okay. Our heel command is just our walking command. Our version of heel, walk with me, stay with me, and sit when I stop. So if I take 5 steps with Bird, Bird takes 5. If I take 10, he takes 10. And then when I come to stop, he's to automatically sit, shoulder parallel to the leg, loose leash in any environment. That's how strict heel is. Okay. Now, the reason why it's our first exercise is because it's simple. It's just a walking exercise. All dogs already know how to walk, right? Especially if he's with prong collar, this is probably going to be easy for him. Okay. Now we're trying to let him know that the e-collar turns on when you do this, and the e-collar turns off when you do this, right? But we're not at like a correction sort of level, right? When we're seeing like a behavior come out or anything like that, right? That comes later. So that's one of the things, right? One of the main things we're teaching it is that how the e-collar turns on, turns off. And then for the obvious reason would also be to get a good walk, right? The other reason why this is a very important exercise to teach is because the idea behind heel, right, is that, right, I said all the rules for heel: walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. And when we're making those rules matter, technically, Bird shouldn't be worried about the birds or the dogs or the people. He should be more concerned about the e-collar and you, the handler, right? So then it opens and allows Bird to realize, okay, when I freak out, right, this is going to go off, but I already know how this turns on. I know this turns off. I'm familiar with this already. Okay. So then if I see a dog and I don't freak out, nothing happens. So Bird needs to realize that these dogs, I guess, aren't going to touch him. Okay. And once he realizes that there's nothing going on here, then it's like, oh, then I guess we're good, right? So we just need to have we just need to take down that wall, whether it be territorial, their nervousness, whatever it is, in an open, tear down that wall so that we can allow curiosity to take over. Okay. Right. Where he's wondering, okay, if I can't react to these dogs and these dogs aren't hurting me and we're all good, then who are these dogs? Right. So once curiosity, then it allows you to do the food stuff, the conditioning, where you know you see a dog, he didn't react, food, right? But we can't do that if we're in close quarters and he's freaking out and like we got the food and the prong collar and like we're trying to do this thing, right?
Yeah, it's like it's got to be like you got to simplify it.
Yes. So you brought up the word suppression. Technically, we are doing it to a degree, right? Where we're trying to just let him settle and just keep him calm. Then that allows you to work with everything else. Like you said, simplify. That's all we're trying to do when it comes to the building stuff and everything. Just make it easier for you so that we can start to get to the food stuff and let him realize that, hey, elevator, nothing bad, we're good. So that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to change the psychology, you know, in Bird's head when it comes to buildings, elevators, and dogs and stuff like that. Does that stuff make sense so far?
Yeah, totally.
Again, we have worked with dogs who show redirection, you know, when it comes to dog reactivity and the e-collar. But it's very easy to de-escalate if we do see it. So maybe we might see it, but again, once we have the proper tools, you know, with the Baskerville muzzle and the preparation with the e-collar, it should be easy. Sometimes I had one client, her pity was reactive to like almost everything. Anything that moved, birds, squirrels, bikes, roller skaters, humans, dogs, everything, right? She was just like, she's
Yeah.
just like everything. I teach
She's
her
a giant ball of anxiety.
I teach class 1 heel. I see her next week. She comes to me and she says, half of those things I didn't even see the dog react to, right? Birds and people were the main things, right? Because once you give a dog a job, right? Focus on the handler,
Yeah.
keep the shoulder parallel to the leg. It's like, oh, this is what I have to do in this big open world full of different things going on, right? This is my job, right? All dogs need some sort of job or task. So once you give them that and you're just letting, hey, buddy, when we're out here, you have to do this. Oh, okay. And then it's just so much more easier, right, to walk your dog and everything like that, right? The only thing that was left with that specific dog was to more of the dog stuff, the dog reactivity. But what I'm trying to say is that either we might see certain behaviors go away, so maybe he might not react to calm dogs, right? Or it could
Yeah.
just as a whole a de-escalation of how reactive he can get, right? He might still be reactive, but it might not be as intense as we you know, you saw before the e-collar. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it might be like he looks at that dog and growls at it instead of like growling, showing his teeth, and lunging at it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Also was gonna say, so that's what I would want to do first with him. What else was I going to bring up? I'll leave it up to you whether you want to pair and continue to use prong collar.
I
Sometimes
mean, based on what you're saying right now and with what I'm seeing with him, I would say no. I would say it's e-collar, or like, do you ever see cases where like they get so used to the e-collar that you then start trying times where they don't have it on to see if they still have that connection, or what are your thoughts there?
yeah, so all dogs are different. I've had some clients tell me, hey Enrique, we took so and so to the coffee shop with no e-collar and the dog did perfect and the dog's just great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I've had other clients tell me the moment they realize that e-collar is not on, boom, back to pulling. Okay.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with the training. I mean, there are some things you can do to make the dog realize and or make to make the dog not be collar smart. But that stuff is more for like a trainer, and that stuff is done at a very young age as a puppy because it needs to be almost like every day, every night of working on that stuff, right? But here, it's technically normal, all right, because dogs are very opportunistic creatures. Same thing with humans. So the example we like to use sometimes to clients is I'll ask them, you know, do you drive in the highway? They'll say yes. I'll say, do you go the speed limit? They're like, nope. I'm like, well, what do you do when you see a squad car? We slow down, right? Same thing. We like to call the collar. We like to call the e-collar cop on a collar sometimes because once the dog realizes they're almost like I should watch myself and kind of like behave and not try to pull or you know react or whatever it is, right? But you know if we see that it's technically normal. I've only seen when it comes to reactivity specifically, where if the dog tries something or maybe let's say everything's going great and you'll put the e-collar on and everything's still great, but then maybe one day I don't know, just something different that hasn't happened before, right? Because we can never predict what's going to happen on this time we're going to the building. We can never predict what's going to happen on our walk, right? So we always tell our clients, we recommend that you have the collar on, even if your dog is great, always have it on your walks and stuff to be prepared for something, right? So like for my dogs are 4 years old now, and I started e-collar training them when they were like 6 months-ish, 5 months. To this day, while I walk one of them off leash, I can walk on Western, no leash, wherever I want. She's always in the heel with me, right? So definitely the e-collar is on. But even if I have a leash on her, the e-collar is still on because she still hasn't experienced a car backfire. She still hasn't experienced a firework going off when it's not the middle of 4th of July, right? But
Yep.
I am not using the e-collar. So I maybe press the
Yeah.
button 2 times a month at most, maybe. But I know that if something were to happen, I have immediate control. I'm good. She's safe. We're happy. Okay. So that's the only
Yeah,
reason.
I think what you just said right there, where it's she's safe,
Exactly.
that's key. It's about my safety, but and everyone else's safety. More importantly, it's about the dog's safety.
Yes. So that's what we always recommend owners to do is like, in the home, if no one's coming over and it's just you and the dog and we're chilling, we're hanging out, then you don't need to put the e-collar on. I don't care. But
Yeah.
I'm just like, when you're out and about, it's better to be safe than sorry and have the collar on. Just
Yeah, it's letting them know, like, all right, it's time to work.
correct, exactly. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
total. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, this all seems really, really straightforward, and appreciate time to take me through this. Like, what do you think would be like good next steps? Like, I'm looking on the website right now, and it's like the one class, or there's the 3-week master the walk, the 6-week basic control. Like, what do you think would be a good starting point?
Yeah. You have one main issue. I'm either going to recommend you the 3-week program or 6. The 3-week program,
Yep.
because all you want to do is just tackle basically the walk, just walking him and kind of get that, addressed. The reactivity and territorial behavior in the home stuff, right? First class would be introducing the heel command to Bird and you. And this is in person, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
And and then you practice that, and we'll see what does it change in Bird's mind when he's introduced to this new form of pressure and this different type of structure and discipline. Okay. Oh, the other thing, that's what I was going to say. Okay, I'll come back to it. So second class, we'll probably give you like a 2-week gap between each class. Second class, you come back to us, relay some information. Okay. Now, the only issue with the 3-week program is that, let's say we're seeing the redirection happen with the e-collar when in the context of dogs and stuff, right? We might need a little bit more wiggle room to make sure that that is just not happening anymore, or at least just controlled. Okay. So that's why
Yep.
the 6-week comes in handy, because we can go over 2 classes heel. Third class, we can do a walk in your building and walk you through how to handle the elevators and stuff like that. And then we'll, that 4th class can be like an extra, okay, what do we need to clean up in this building? 5th and 6th, we can work on the separation anxiety, and then also maybe introduce you to another command like recall, right? We always enjoy or like to have owners,
Oh, I'd love for the recall to work.
Okay, perfect. Then definitely 6-week.
Like, yeah, like, to give you an example of the recall. So, like, he, like, his first winter, not this past winter, but like a year ago, when it was like a brutal winter, he loved the snow. And the dog park's like a pretty big park, and he just knows his way around it and knows he can just avoid me. And I'd be like, all right, let's go. And he'd be like, nope, I'm good. And even with like treats and all kinds of stuff, like, to kind of get him going, he'd be like, no. And it'd be like having like me and someone else, like, basically like pretend to play with him and then be like, all right, gotcha. So yeah, I think the 6 weeks definitely, you piqued my interest there.
Okay. So yes, then I would recommend the 6-week, right?
Yeah.
Because it gives you more wiggle room, and then we can also cover the recall. Again, I like, we always enjoy owners taking advantage of the e-collar, because it can give you off leash control. We like to just give them that, right? That plus.
Yeah. Also, like another thing with like recall and off leash control, like, my best friend's got a lake house in Wisconsin that's on 7 acres of land and on the water, and I trust him to be off leash within reason. Like, if it's if we're all outside hanging out and I can see him, I know if I like say, hey, let's go, he doesn't listen to me. I'm like, all right, bye. And the second I say bye, he's like, wait, you're leaving me, and immediately runs at me.
Yes.
Especially, like, it's one thing at the dog park when I'm like, all right, bye, and I go walk out the fence and he doesn't move. So he's like, oh, I still see you. But if, like, it's like, bye, I'm going inside away from you, he's like, wait, don't leave me.
Exactly. Yeah. So that
And
you
it kind of ties to that. It's kind of taking advantage of the separation anxiety a little bit.
yeah. But no, I think 6 week would, bare bones, that's what would help you. Okay. We do
Yeah.
have the 9 and 12. Those are more for like owners who are seeking stationary controls. Maybe for the 9 week program, more for owners who want to go to outdoor patios and want their dog to lay down, not move for like 2 hours or something. So more stationary control. In your case, we can cover more commands like down or stay, and then also just again just more and more proofing with the building and his reactivity stuff if needed. The 12 week is everything, right? 12 week are for people who are like, I go hiking every other weekend and I need my dog fully off leash train and full control. Well, that's the 12 week. That's
Yeah.
what for them. So bare bones minimum, I suggest the 6 week. 9 and 12 are just
Yep.
more like personal preference if you want more control, but you can always add more classes. So you can always choose a 6 week program, and they're like, damn, I want to learn more. Then you can buy like a 3 week program and just cover whatever else you're looking to cover.
Yeah, just like kind of just like add-ons, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause I like the idea of doing this, like doing the 6 week, because there's times where I travel for work, or just like travel for fun. And would it be possible if I were to do like say a 6 week class and then I need to board them? Can like I board them with you guys and then do board and train to kind of help reinforce that and teach them new skills?
Yes. So you can do the 6 week because you'll be like a training client and all that stuff. Then you can board him whenever you want. A
Yep.
board and train is a separate training program, which would be overkill. Okay. What you
Gotcha.
do instead to save you money and everything would be just to purchase what's called add-ons to your boarding service.
Yep.
Where it just could be you can buy like 5 add-on package and say, hey, for this day, I would like to use 2 of those sessions and practice recall in a play group setting with a bunch of dogs, or maybe take him on a walk and bring him to Home Depot or something, right? So it can
Yeah.
be anything what you want to cover and sharpen up. That's what that would be for. For the add-ons, because when we do boarding trains and daycare trains, we record everything. For the add-on sessions, we
Yeah.
don't record it. It's just like a quick 30-minute session with the dog. Okay. So that's like a possibility for the future if you want to sharpen up a skill or teach them something new. Okay.
Cool.
What else? So those are the in-person programs. Again, you might have seen the website. It's all verbal instruction. Okay, we talk to
Yep.
you, tell you what to do with the dog, right?
Yeah. It's more of you training me how to train the dog,
Yes,
which is key, because if it's one thing for you to train a dog, but if I can't reinforce that training, it's fucking worthless.
exactly. We currently are moving to Oz Park with our in-person training sessions. Are you familiar with Oz Park?
Yeah, I'm in Old Town, like right off the Division in Wells, so I know Oz Park.
We also offer in-home training, so we can do. You'll probably see the prices. That there's like
Yeah, I literally have your website up in the background where I can see the pricing.
so you can still do Oz Park training and then make like your third session in-home class, and then we can go back to Oz Park and stuff like that, right? So or you can just have your whole program in your home, and like we'll start training outside first, outside your building and stuff like that, and then work your stuff in the home and stuff like that. But we're again purchasing that muzzle as soon as possible, just so that until we get to the building stuff, definitely start with that.
Yep.
And one thing I remembered from early on was you mentioned that when he sees a familiar dog and he gets excited, you said he freaks out. Do you see a lunging there as well? Not like an aggressive lunge, but more of like an excited lunge he wants. Okay.
Yeah, like, oh my God, I know who that is. Like, I want to go play with them. And like there's this one golden retriever in our building who, like, I jokingly call his girlfriend, because when they see each other, they both pause and stare at each other. And then it's like, I know you. And then they just go at it. It's like they start just like wrestling, and like they just start playing like crazy. It's adorable. And I'm like, all right, cool. And like there'll be times where I might be coming back from a walk in the morning, and they might be leaving for a walk. And I'm like, great, they can get tired and we're out of here. Like, and I get upstairs and Burt's just like for not even playing 5 minutes like that, just like rolling around, he's dead. And I'm just like, great, go crash, go in your bed. I'm going to work.
Perfect.
But there is that lunge where he wants to like, he's like, he can't control himself.
I see.
And it's like getting that where if I can be like, no, like wait, okay, go. Like, and that's one thing that I've been I like continue to work with him on is that like that wait command where like I'll get it where when we go to the elevator, I'll have him sit and I'll tell him wait, and elevator will come and he looks at me and he's like, can I go? Like, can, and then I'll be like, all right, go. And then he'll let him go in the elevator.
I see.
But
Perfect.
there's still times at that where like he will be like, he'll like try to go. I'm like, wait. All right, now go.
Perfect. Yeah. I wanted to bring that up just to find out, does he, when he gets excited in that way, and when he lunges, does he, and he feels a prong collar, there's no redirection there?
So there's times where if he has a prong collar on, there's that. But like a lot of the times when I walk him, I wouldn't use the prong collar. Like if we're going for a quick walk in the morning, I'm like, you're good without the prong collar. Let's go. Like, but it's gonna be a longer walk where I know we're gonna be in a lot of different places. I'll throw the prong collar on him.
Okay.
So a lot of the times it happens with like that other dog that's in our building. It's he's not wearing the prong collar, but there are when like, let's say there's a time we're walking him and like he has a prong collar on, he'll still at times try to go, but not to the extent that he was. Like he's still like you can see he's visibly excited and wants to go engage with that person or that dog, but he calms down a little bit.
I see. Yeah, I would say definitely continue to add that structure when he's greeting friendly dogs. Because even
Yep.
though he's lunging in like a friendly way, lunging and an excited and lunging for friendliness and lunging for the aggression, right? They're both the same. Okay.
Yeah.
They're both coming from a really high level of energy or excitement. And it's all coming from impulse control, right?
Yep.
So definitely continue to add that structure before he meets dogs, get him settled, then maybe add a cue, like you said, like, okay, and then you can go play, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. His release word is go.
oh, perfect.
Yeah. Kids like I've got like positive word, negative, correction, like yes, no.
Got it.
Goes his release word. He's good with that. He knows sit really well. But there's times where like if I'm sitting on the couch, like I'm getting over like a sciatic nerve injury, and if I'm like laying on the couch, he'll come up and bring his toys to me, and I'll be like, all right, what do you want to play? Sit. And he'll sit, and I'm like, all right, when he sits, I throw it, and he'll go get it and then bring it back to me and then go like wait for me to throw it again. I'm like, all right, sit. And he's like just standing there like all excited. I'm like, you
Perfect.
want this? You gotta earn it. You gotta sit.
Nice. Um, any other questions so far?
No, the main question is like, what's your availability to start this?
Um, so after this consultation,
Yep,
you're going to receive a follow-up email from our assistant Tina. She handles all the in-person calendar stuff, right?
great.
That's her. She's going to send you the e-collar I recommend. Okay, the brand we use is called Dogtra.
Yep.
The
Yeah, I think I saw it on your website. It's like 250, 300, something like that around there.
the model we want to give you is called 1900S Black Edition.
Is that on? Will that be in our email, like the exact model and all that? Great.
Now make sure, because sometimes for some reason the link Maximus messes up and it's going to show you the 1900S, that's it, regular edition. Do
Yep.
not purchase that, because even though it's cheaper and clients are thinking, well, I don't need that mileage or that range for Black Edition, I'll just get the regular one, right? But the stem, the feeling of the stem on the regular 1900S edition is sharper than the Black Edition. Black Edition stem is dull, very dull, but it's also
Yeah.
getting a little stronger, right? So when it comes to, especially when I'm hearing redirection, I don't want to be sharp. I don't want a sharp feeling. I want dull and smooth for Burt. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why we recommend that collar for you. She's also going to send you the programs and prices I talked about. So like 6, and then, so it's laid out for you again.
Yep.
And she's going to send you a form that needs to be signed and agreed to. once you sign the form, you read it over, we can go ahead and begin the billing and booking process, right? So
Yep.
I don't know my calendar. Tina handles all that stuff, so I can't really say like
Cool.
what my availability is. So Tina will set that up with you and everything. Okay.
Great.
Any other questions about that?
No, that was it. This is really, really helpful and insightful. Thank you for being so thorough.
Perfect. I think there was there's so yeah, we talked about that. Something else that I missed over. But no, I think it's pretty straightforward. Pretty this is the problem. You got to
Yeah.
you know, address the root, which is again the handler focus, and teaching him that, hey, buddy, this is the task we need to do outside. You don't need to worry about these things here, right?
Yep.
But no, I think you know, when it comes to handling him, I guess the muzzle is going to give you so much more confidence, and just like almost like it'll give you, it'll be more comfortable for you. So I definitely get that started as soon as you can. There's plenty of videos. I'm pretty sure you can figure out on your own as well.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm sure if I Google that, if I get that muzzle in the search on YouTube, that muzzle name, it'll be like, here's how you use it, and like all that stuff.
Yes. What else? Any other questions? Anything else?
No, that's it.
So just keep an eye out for Tina's email.
You think that'll come through tomorrow?
Yeah, it should be sent out tomorrow or the latest Wednesday, but you should be receiving it tomorrow. And then if anything else comes up, any other questions, maybe you know, you talk about this conversation with Lisa, right? Her name's Lisa.
Yeah.
And she brings something up and you're like wondering about that, feel free to email us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can about any other questions that come up later on. But other than that, just keep a lookout for Tina's email and then we'll be in touch. Okay.
Great. Cool.
All right.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye.